Okay. The issue before you would be to rezone it according to the recommendation of the Zoning and Planning Commission. It takes a simple majority to approve, and again, as I said, it takes 6 votes to go against their recommendation.
I'll make a motion to the zoning's recommendation.
Wait a minute. We might have Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good.
You can't
use him, huh?
You can't vote.
You can't vote.
You have to be here. You can't have attendance of members of council by Zoom anymore.
Oh, you cannot.
Cannot.
I didn't know that had changed. Okay.
We still stream it as a convenience for the public, but your attendance doesn't count.
Right, I know that before, but that has been wiped out by the Ohio Revised Code.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, sheds a different light on it. Thanks for your attendance, though, Mr. Schmidt. So motion
to accept the planning and zoning's recommendation.
motion by Mr. Baumgartner to accept the zoning and planning's recommendation to change the resident or the property 142, 146 West Water to UR Urban Residential to Downtown Enterprise, from Urban Residential to Downtown Enterprise. Discussion or further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Godwin,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Baumgartner,
Yes.
Ely.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next item is the zoning amendment recommendation from the Zoning and Planning Commission. You want to read that one, please?
Honorable members of council, at the September 21st, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the topic of medical marijuana dispensaries was discussed. A new regulation was presented by Law Director Riemann. This was discussed during many regular sessions, and members unanimously approved a motion to make a favorable recommendation to City Council. In following with the zoning regulations, Article 5, Amendment Section 5.05, the Planning and Zoning Commission is hereby forwarding the recommendation to grant the request to City Council. City Council per Section 5.06 must now take action. The minutes from the September 21st, 21 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding this issue have been attached. Sincerely, Mayor Wellman.
Okay. You've heard the reading of that. If there are anyone in the audience want to speak to this, please come forward, give your name and address. If we have for and against, I will take 1 for and then alternately 1 against. So whoever wants to come up first, please step to the podium.
My name is Matthew Kane, 322 Hart Avenue. I also have a letter here from another business owner in Greenville, a friend of mine. I don't know if I may able to read that too, and then speak on my own behalf.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I have a letter here from a business owner in Greenville. He's doing the jail ministry right now and couldn't attend. He wrote it out and wanted me to read it on his behalf, and then I would like to speak on my own behalf. That'd be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long
He's
as
got his name in here and everything.
As long as we're not belaboring the point.
No, this is
all night long.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
He says, I want to start by saying thank you to our city council and the citizens of Greenville for allowing me to share my thoughts and opinions. I truly appreciate all the time and effort you put into guiding our city and all those who do many things behind the scenes. It's truly a humbling experience to share with you. I wish I was able to be there in person by sharing proxy. My name is Mike Wise, and I've been a citizen of Greenville for over 50 years. I've been given the opportunity to watch the evolution of our society in Greenville for those 50 years. I can honestly say the number one issue that has done the most damage to our citizen, our economy, and the future of our children and grandchildren is the drug epidemic that grips our society. Over the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to participate in ministering to those incarcerated at the Darke County Jail. With firsthand experience and knowledge, I can honestly say 90% of the men incarcerated at the jail are there because of drugs and situations related to drugs. It's heartbreaking to sit down with an 18-year-old man who is suffering from drug addiction, knowing that his life of drugs started with marijuana. Several years ago, I was in with a group of men men at the jail. One of them was my childhood best friend. With firsthand knowledge, he started using marijuana around age 13 years of age. It was a certain type, I can't read that. By the grace of God, I chose not to continue down that path. He started to use hardcore drugs. Several weeks after visiting with him in jail, he got out and committed suicide. I can share many more true stories of the men I've encountered at the jail, most of whom continually go in and out of jail or prison or commit suicide, bound by the chains of drug addiction. That for most started with marijuana. I beg of you to look deep into the fact of a medical marijuana dispensary. So that was his part. I want to start by saying I have a medical marijuana card. I got it in December of last year.
What is your name, please,
Matthew Kane,
and address?
322 Hart Avenue.
Thank you.
So I got my medical card. First off, I'll say I'm a convicted felon and I went to prison for drug dealing. And, I got my medical card in December of last year before I got clean. And I'll start off by saying the whole process took me about 2 hours and I was at the dispensary in Dayton. I went over a Zoom meeting with a doctor who was in his own house, asked me some questions about kind of leading me into what I had, what kind of issues I had. Never did any kind of background into my medical diagnosis. I told him that I had hepatitis C, trouble sleeping, and I was bipolar. Completely made all that up because I read on the website, that's what I had to say. So with it, like I said, 30 minutes later, I have an email from the Ohio Medical Marijuana Registry saying, print your card off, pay $50, print your card off, and you can go to the dispensary. And I did. When I got there, I had no idea what I was in store for because I've smoked a lot of marijuana on the streets, bought from other drug dealers, and it was not this. This was the strongest weed that I've ever smoked. Absolutely could not function and could not see it at this time as any kind of medicine. But I will say this, there was pills there as far as medical or THC pills, potions they call it, which is liquid, edibles, which look very similar to candy that you buy at the store. But I will say this, when I went down to Dayton, there's about a 2-hour wait to get in there because it's so full. They have you sit in your car and they will come get you. I recognize a lot of the people down there because I myself sold drugs in this community, but got them from there. And a lot of them were drug dealers. They were not just going there to get medical marijuana. They were selling legal narcotics in the parking lot, which is what I'm afraid of after my 20-year drug addiction and plight that I've been through. Getting to this point is going to happen here. Like I said, the whole thing was in my mind very, very, very flimsy, and the whole process, there was no medical reasoning for me to get that. And it was so simple. And I've made, many trips down there, been to different dispensaries down there, and it's always the same kind of setup. There was no drug testing. There was no background check. And I guess my thing is, why do we need a dispensary if we have a CVS, a Kroger, all these pharmacies in Greenville? Well, I understand it's federally illegal, so they can't sell it there. So I guess that, in my mind, brings about another red flag. If the federal government is saying it's illegal, then why is the state saying it's okay? Because if you remember back, when the Oxycontin and the drug epidemic started, they approved Oxycontin. We started, getting it at the pharmacy, and look where that led us. And I just feel like this is not going to be good for our community. And now that I've gotten on the other side of my addiction, not that I'm exempt from it, but that I'm, can see things for what they are. Looking back, I started with marijuana. I didn't start shooting heroin at 16. I started smoking a joint, and a lot of my friends did too that have ended up the same place I have. And, the marijuana in itself, you can argue, is not that bad. It is that bad, but it's what it leads to. And it's the other criminal activity that it brings around with it. And, like I said, I'm a patient of it, guilty of using it for the wrong reasons. And I can say that this is a bad decision if you vote yes on this dispensary coming in. I understand it's a financial gain for this city, but there's other ways to do it, I believe. And I just felt like I needed to voice my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there somebody here in favor of this?
I'd like to say something if I can.
Yes, please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Scott Dahlstrom, medical marijuana patient here in Greenville.
What's your address, sir?
312 Warren Street,
Okay,
all right? Currently, right now, medical marijuana patients are getting their marijuana, but they're having to drive all the way to Dayton to do it. I don't think anyone can argue that it's safer for us to be on the road all the way to Dayton and back. And as far as bringing a dispensary into Greenville, you're not, I don't believe this is actually going to change anything other than, if anything, it will reduce the amount of marijuana being sold on the black market. Right now, I have two choices to get my marijuana. I can drive to Dayton and buy it legally, or I can just walk down the street and buy it illegally right here in Greenville. The idea that marijuana is not being sold in Greenville right now is ridiculous. So I can either buy it illegally in Greenville, or I can drive all the way to Dayton to buy it legally. I think having better access for patients to make who might not have the option of driving all the way down to Dayton makes more sense as far as reducing black market usage. That's all I'm going to add for that. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council at this time? Seeing no one, okay.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to address on this issue because I live right outside the city limits, but the other one that I did address was I was an adjacent landowner to the Water Street. So again, my name is Irene Shives and I live at 5725 Breckworth Road. That's in Greenville. Is that good?
Yes,
I would just like to voice my opposition to it. We have a lot of illegal drug use. And if it starts, with a gateway drug or anything like that, we put money out for rehabilitation. Why would we want to do this to our youth, setting them on a lifetime of dependency to a mind-altering drug? It's ludicrous. It makes no sense. And I think the testimony we heard from the other gentleman, of life experience, it speaks loudest. So, thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Can I say something about this gateway drug issue?
Yeah, are you the same gentleman that discussed before?
Yes.
Okay, if there's someone else, I'd like to give them a turn before I permit you to come back again, please.
Sure.
All right, is there anyone else wishing to address council? You have 2 minutes, sir. Oh, go, excuse
Thank
me.
you.
Come in.
Thank
Just a
you.
moment, sir. Just a moment, we do have someone here at the podium.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Debbie Nicemonger. I live at 619 Burt Street. And we can argue all night whether it's a gateway drug or whatever, but we all know for a fact exactly what Matt said. It does lead to other things, because I think our society at this point right now is not in good standing to make right decisions by our children or young adults that could lead to further drug addictions, possibly. So I don't think at this time our community needs this type of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Now, sir, one more 2-minute shot.
Yeah, thank you. These are not, the people who go to a dispensary, these are not thrill seekers looking for a high. These are patients who have a medical condition that is actually treated with marijuana. So this is no different that I see. These are patients who have gone to a doctor, discussed their condition with the doctor. The patient and the doctor have agreed that medical marijuana would be best to treat their condition. So this is not like a recreational situation here. These are patients who, this is basically like saying, we don't want CVS here because they sell opioids. So we're going to ban CVS from Greenville and make everyone who gets a prescription drive down to Dayton to get their pills. That's basically the argument that I'm hearing. I'm a combat veteran. My condition for obtaining medical marijuana is combat related. So I obtained this condition fighting in a war for you people. And now I'm being told that we don't want you to be able to obtain the treatment you want here in Greenville. We want you to have to drive down to Dayton to get it. Thank you for your service. So I don't really see the justification in it. This is not marijuana that's going to be handed out to the mass public. These are all patients who have gone through a doctor, have a medical condition, and are relying on this for relief, for a better quality of life. This isn't some, we're not opening another bar in Greenville or something like that. This is something for patients to get access to medicine. And I think it needs to be viewed as that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Nathan Siltmitter, and I live at 101 Stonecrest Court. I don't really have a statement, maybe just a question. Has anyone ever contacted maybe an established dispensary that's in a city or community to kind of get the pros and cons and the effects that they have in the surrounding community? That may be beneficial, just a thought. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that.
I have not.
Having visited a dispensary several times, I can.
You're out of order. The question is not to you. He's addressing city council at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I did go down and visit the one down in Dayton, down there close to Dixie. And I did talk to some of the people, and I talked to the security guard. It was in the parking lot. And as far as drug dealing in the parking lot, it wasn't happening. They said they had problems with it when they first opened, cut it down. And, as far as people all tattooed up or drug people, or they call them tweakers, I didn't see any of those pulling up on their bicycles or whatever, going out and getting it. And I was told that the price of what medical marijuana is versus going down to the street is a lot more expensive. But I did go visit an establishment down in Dayton and sit there and talk to them probably about a half hour, 45 minutes.
I just was curious. I think that would be incredibly beneficial, especially if we're also having some that are closing that have been around maybe they have a track record. That may be something to look in as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is BJ Paulus. I'm not actually a resident of Greenville, but I do own and operate a business here in Greenville. So does that qualify me to speak?
And what is your address, please?
1370 KitchenAid Way.
Okay.
Just as an aside, I know of individuals who use medical marijuana to treat your ailments. And so I'm not against that. And I understand that it does work. We all know that there are things that can be used from that in order to help a person who has painful issues or even some psychological issues. However, we do also know that the system is completely broken. The idea to think that it would be in this area and not have an effect in regards to our current drug problem, I think is something that's just an obvious thing there already. So that's my position as far as that goes. In regards to Matthew and his support, he's one of the main reasons why I'm here this evening. Just because I know a number of men who have come out of that lifestyle and have also then received victory, mostly through their faith, but it's a hard road to hoe. He's one of the few in the percent that's escaped that. So I guess my primary statement this evening would just be mostly to first, number one, say thank you as a council because of what you do in your service to our community. I know that as a Christ follower, I look back historically, and every community or great or small civilization has always had a group of judges, give or take. They were priests at one point in time, or individuals who oversaw things coming into their community. And they were extremely valid because they were considered to be people who basically changed the course of history for those given communities. And as you all know, history repeats itself. And so I think for anybody that doesn't have their head stuck in the sand, we know that there's a grand attack on our country and the liberties in regards to how we see them in calling ourselves a Christian country. Especially an idea that some of just the simple things that I've seen in the last 2 meetings that I've attended, I don't consider myself a proficient city council meeting attender, just in the last couple in regards to some of these propositions that are trying to come into our community that I would term as an infiltration more than anything, I guess I could say. So to summarize things, I think you understand where I'm coming from, but I also want you to know as city council members that there are people praying for you. I myself pray. Sorry, God's working on me. I pray for a spirit of wisdom to be upon each and every single one of you. Divine discernment and an understanding that goes deeper than something that might make a dollar. Because things historically through the lens of Christ, you're going to see things very differently in regards to how some decisions that may be profitable on the surface can ultimately be the undermines of a very wonderful thing that God has created. And so just so you know, if you need somebody to pray for you, I'm here. I'm 50 hours a week here with Snap Fitness. And I know other people that will do the same thing too. But I do ask God for divine counsel for you, and I appreciate the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else wishing to address council? If you don't come forward soon, I'm going to move the agenda. Okay. Yes. Sir, if you would, please come to the microphone. Give your name and address, if you will, please.
Gene Hirschbarger, 962 Kings Drive, Greenville. This is unrelated to that.
Well, sir, if you can wait just a moment, what we're doing right now is the discussion has to be on the zoning amendment.
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from. As soon as we complete this, then you can talk about your issue, okay? I don't want to cut you off, but we got to keep it pertinent to the issue at hand. Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else on the zoning amendment recommendation from the Zoning and Planning Commission? I will terminate the hearing at this particular point. And council now has to either accept or reject the recommendation.
That's correct.
So, council members, the call is yours.
Did a question be asked first?
Sure.
So is this all a waste of time? Because I thought the date had already passed for them to even apply for the permit.
So I think my understanding of it, and I'm not as familiar with what's coming forward, but my understanding is that it has for the next round. But the reality is what this is doing is putting in a framework if you're ever going to allow it. So you're not rushing. You know, that this came up in June or July when we were first discussing it. That's why council recommended to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning took 3 months to come up with a recommendation back to council so that a framework could get put into place so that going forward, we're not being reactionary to it, that we've got a plan in place and this is our stance on it. But it is my understanding that the next wave of dispensaries, if you will, that it's already past that. So any of the new ones wouldn't qualify. But certainly anything that opened up, we wouldn't be reacting at that point. This would be in place and it'd be in place going forward.
I got a question. The legislation that the zoning prepared, I had to stop down there and get a copy of it. It was kind of like 1,000 foot of a school or a church. They talked about headlights going into a residential area, had to have fencing and bushes or trees or something. And
That's correct.
Did you read the one that was prepared?
Yeah.
Says the same thing in here.
I'm just asking a question.
Okay.
So, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and so what we did when it got recommended to planning and zoning, their first discussion was, do we want to allow this at all or not? Because the recommendation could have just come back, no, we don't want to allow it, or we want to allow it with no restrictions at all. They tasked me in planning and zoning to look at what different communities were doing. And so in terms of what they asked me to prepare for them is they asked me to allow it only in the general business district. So if you're looking at a map of Greenville, it's essentially only on Wagner Avenue, Schweitzer Avenue, and a couple of outliers that fall under general business. We took the general restrictions from the Ohio Revised Code and essentially doubled them. So I want to say, I don't have it in front of me, that if it's the Ohio Revised Code said 500 feet from the school, we made it 1,000. We doubled everything. And so there's really only about 4 or 5 pockets that fit. We did put in restrictions about signage, that there can't be depictions of marijuana memorabilia in the signage, and that they've got additional restrictions in terms of landscaping. And so the recommendation back to you essentially was, we're going to allow it, but in very limited circumstances and with very high regulation. And so that's what they approved and recommended to you. But again, ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to take the recommendation or not.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't there also like it could be reviewed in 1 year? Was that?
I'd have to
I'm looking for
look
it,
at what we submitted, but I'm not sure off the top of my head.
that the license renewal would be up for review. I'm looking for
I know certain communities have that aspect of it. I'm not sure if we had included that in ours.
it.
Off the top of my head, I think that we did not, just in terms
I
of,
guess maybe that was something I
Okay.
read from another.
and other communities do have that. I think in discussion with the planning and zoning, the hope was that if we created a framework that was rigid enough to begin with, we didn't have to come back every single year and do more paperwork and deal with that. It's still at the discretion, I believe, of the police chief to go in and shut it down if he believes that there's issues. But there wasn't an annual licensing fee like some communities
Okay.
have.
I guess, I'm sorry, I got it confused.
No, that's a great question.
Okay, further questions? Okay, I would again declare the hearing portion of this closed. Now, again, what does council choose to do with this? We have 2 members absent this evening.
I move we reject this amendment or this, amendment recommendation for the zone.
You don't have enough votes. It takes 6.
In theory, he can still move to reject it, you get the votes, because once it becomes clear that you're not gonna have a majority to pass it, then you can, at that point, I think you would table it until you can get a 6th member, knowing it's not gonna pass because you've got the votes to reject it. So I think you can still call the question on the motion to reject it if you'd like.
Okay. Or would you prefer to have it tabled?
Either one are acceptable.
Yeah.
I personally think we should table until all the council members are
I
here.
agree.
You make that motion.
I'll make that motion to table.
Motion, Mr. Baumgartner, to table this recommendation till, now, in the tabling motion, it must be considered at the next regular scheduled meeting. If it isn't taken off the table at the next regularly scheduled meeting, it dies. That is the parliamentary procedure that we operate by.
And that has to be a motion to take it off the
Right.
table.
It has to be a motion to lift it from the, take it off or lift it from the table for further discussion. So now we have a motion by Mr. Baumgartner to table this issue. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Godwin,
Yes.
Rogers,
No.
Whitaker.
No.
Baumgartner,
Yes,
Neely,
Yes.
What we got?
3-2.
2 noes, 3 yeses.
3-2, that's
Simple majority.
simple majority of the members present. Okay, so that motion carries, it is tabled. Okay, moving along. Now, we opened up, before I do that, I forgot to do something else. On the first issue, the zoning amendment recommendation for the Water Street. Since you all have approved that, the legislation has been prepared, automatically goes to item 16.
16.
Under ordinances and resolutions, which is an ordinance rezoning 142, 146 West Water Street. So that will be item 16 under ordinances and resolutions. Okay, now, sir, you would like to address council on the other issue. Please come forward.
Okay, again, Gene Harshbarger, 962 Kings Drive, Greenville. I'm just curious, what's the procedure? Went to a zoning meeting about a month ago over this planned unit development on Lease Avenue. Just curious when that would be brought up, or what's the procedure for that?
I have that tonight.
You have
I'm
it.
gonna read the letter.
We have a letter from the Zoning and Planning Commission. And the letter will be read. And then what we have to do, sir, is we have to set a public hearing, like the one tonight, on these two issues. That has to lay for 30 days.
Okay.
Okay, so that by this being the 7th of December, 30 days from that date or from this date would take it, of course, to the, like, January the 7th. And that's past the first council meeting. So it would have to be set for the second council meeting, which would be the 18th of January. For council to have a hearing on that, and then we would go from there. That's the procedure we follow. Does that answer your question?
Is there approval or refusal at that time?
I think the under, is that under new business?
It's under communication.
That's under communications. So we would take that communication from the zoning and planning at that time. I believe their preliminary recommendation is not to permit it.
Yeah, it was unanimously.
Okay, so that's, then council has to either uphold that or override it. And once again, it takes 6 votes to override what they recommend.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I appreciate you taking the time to discuss this.
Oh, that's all right. That's what we're here for.
Another question before I quit. These agendas, are they put on the internet before the meetings? So you know what's on the
Yeah.
agenda?
They're posted on the website.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or you can come up to the auditor's office and pick up a copy prior to. There's usually available
The Friday before the meeting.
Friday before the meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now, anyone else wishing to address council on other issues?
Good evening. My name is Frank Fugate. My address is 500 South Front Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. I've been at 2 planning commission meetings. We are proposing, my company that I work for, Warder Cooper Companies, are proposing a 42-unit multifamily development on Adrian Drive. And I'm anticipating that it'll be coming before council this next meeting. That's why I've been instructed that it's going to happen.
Next meeting?
Yes, sir.
As
It's set for its 30 days.
right, next meeting it will be, well, this meeting it'll be read.
Okay, I don't see it on the, I was looking on the agenda. I don't.
It's under communications and it's not listed specifically.
Okay,
The clerk has the council, the communications from zoning and planning.
okay. Then I understand that. It just wasn't on them.
Right.
Okay. While I'm here, let me just say that, you know, we do have a development here. We have Wayne Crossing here in town. I think we've been a good property owner. I think there's a need for this. I'll get more information to council for the next meeting and different things like that. I think one of the biggest thing is it needs a comprehensive plan. It's not impacting downtown. It's going to slow down growth from moving from downtown. But the biggest thing is not spot zoning. We're surrounded on 2 sides by multifamily developments. One's a senior and the other one's a family development. We showed one development, 42 units. We bought the 7 acres because that's what the owner wanted to sell us. He wanted to sell us the entire parcel. And we've proposed that if we get this, we'll move ahead. We could propose moving ahead with another 42 site. There is a stream, a waterway that's through the property that we'd have to figure out how to engineer through that. But my conclusion is that I think this is important. If communities aren't providing housing and they're not growing, then they're not doing well. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
There won't be a hearing at that time. As I said, the hearing, if this is that in this recommendation?
Yeah, it'll be the same. The
Okay.
second meeting in January.
Okay, so that'll have to be the second meeting in January.
That's fine.
Go.
But that was not my understanding of speaking to them later.
Oh, well, that's the way it is. Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll move the agenda going on with administrative reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Got a couple items, try to hurry through them, but might be a little discussion on one. I think Ryan's maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, but I just for myself want to make sure that I say that I really thank everybody that participated in putting up lights downtown, and particularly the new Christmas tree for the city Christmas tree, basically what I call it. There's several people there that are instrumental in making sure that happened, and it's a great tradition that we used to have in the city, and hopefully we'll do it every year, and it'll make great memories. So I would say thank you to particular people, but then I probably missed somebody, so I don't know if Ryan's got that or not, but we'll I'll move on to my next thing. One thing I want to bring up, I passed it around. Paul Ackley has made a watercolor that he's our local media type cartoonist, caricature maker, printer, drawings. He painted up a picture up here that I passed around the council that we're planning on auctioning that off, and the proceeds go to the Boys and Girls Club. And the reason I brought that up with the statement I made about the Christmas, it is of the Christmas tree and the Annie Oakley Park area. So if you want to take another look at it, it'll be around. So it's displayed at Boys and Girls Club right now. We're going to take it around a couple of different businesses and it'll be auctioned off probably before Christmas. So Just wanted to let you know. One other thing, and hopefully if anybody has questions that Mr. Bowers back here from Economic Development can help answer some of those questions. From back at our Dark County CIC, it was brought up, the question was asked of them if they would help in paying some money for a marketing justification, writing of a grant, an application for a $36,000 square foot building built north of town on was it not KitchenAid Way? KitchenAid Way, and hopefully be built basically behind Canaan and between that and the KitchenAid distribution facility.
Excuse me, Mayor, did you say $36,000 building?
No.
What did you say?
Square foot, no?
No, you didn't say square foot. I thought you said $36,000.
Okay.
But that's okay. I thought you meant square foot.
Yeah, that'd be a small one.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, 36,000 square foot. Sorry about that. So the question was asked of the Dark County CIC if they would pay $25,000 to Montrose Group, which is more of their bailiwick and doing this type of work, to pay for that marketing study, justification, application, and so that they could continue on. The developer would have another probably that much more into it himself of fees, and the building would probably be around $2.7 million. The grant would get some of that money back to the developer, which makes it more better for him to build it. So it's a spec building. I don't know if there's anybody particularly going in there. Normally, they would have somebody that think about going in there, but so anyway, the Dark County CIC asked of me to ask the CIC of the city of Greenville if they wanted to split the costs, and that would be $12,500 each. And we discussed it quite a bit at our last meeting, and they asked me to come to council and see if council was there, so because they would benefit more from the building being built than the CIC would. I don't know that. That's just what was brought up. I said I could go and ask. So whatever we would want to do with that, anything at all, or anybody have any questions about it?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think what you're asking in a roundabout way is you're asking the council to contribute public funds to a private individual who's requested this. And I don't feel that that's quite kosher. That's why we have a CIC. Because if we do something like that, it has to flow through the CIC. So I don't think that $6,500 or $6,200 from the city council directly to this person would be kosher. I don't think it's legal. That's my take on it, because it is public funds to a private individual.
That'd be my general reaction, but I have to double check it.
Yeah, because that would be a function of the CIC. And did the CIC approve it?
Approve it? No,
Yeah.
they're asking if we want.
They're asking if we want to help.
To it, yeah.
I don't know what the rest of the council people think, but it's not, it's for a private individual. And that's a concern.
Okay.
I certainly want it to be legal, that's for sure.
I add my 2 cents to that too. I prefer that we keep things on the up and up and go through the right channels.
Okay.
All I got.
That's all you have?
I'll pass.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Safety Service Director, Mr. Delk.
Thank you, Mr. President. To name some of the names that the Mayor talked about for the Christmas tree, so David Furlong from Fitzwaters, Eric Fee, and really the entire Fee family from Tribute Funeral Homes, Jay Crane, and then George Clifton from Clifton Excavating were the major contributors to get the tree to the location and get the funds together for the lights. everything was completely donated. The street department did help with some labor, but other than that, all it was donated by members of the community. So the plan is to keep it going for many, many years to come. That's their vision, and that's how they presented it to us. And so we're excited to keep it going. So I'm all good news this week. I think I'm gonna keep it going for December. Just keep talking. Yeah, so my no negative December for Ryan. My shout out goes to the street department for the phenomenal job I feel they did and have done every year on the Christmas lights. We get a lot of praise. I'm sure there's some people out there that don't agree with it, but you know, the good outweigh the bad big time on it. And so my shout outs to them. A couple of things that I have, exciting news on the water infrastructure this week. Yesterday, we received our principal loan forgiveness agreement from the EPA that they're going to fund $908,000 for our lead line replacement project, which is phase one of some lead line replacement in the south end of Greenville. Second thing is we received a $1,440,900 grant to replace our main transmission line that comes from the water plant into town that was installed in 1893. So it's been a big topic, and Lieutenant Governor John Houston is coming to council chambers. I saw you an invite on Thursday at 10 a.m. I wouldn't say present a check, but to discuss it. And the mayor's going to speak a little bit, and Gary Evans, our water superintendent, is going to speak a little bit. And we appreciate it. It's huge. It really kicks off our infrastructure. That was in our top two. It was that and the water tower. I think the engineer's estimate on this project is around $1.8 million. So it's great for the city, and we're going to take it and we're going to run with it and replace an 1893 water line. With that, I will pass.
Okay. Next, we have the law director.
Thank you, Mr. Council. Thank you, Mr. Council President. Not too much tonight, as you can see by the ordinances and resolutions. It's busy getting everything done at the end of the year. We have 4 out of 5 union contracts completed going forward. We got one hanging out there, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve that. But with that, and with the end of the year coming, I know it's tough with the holidays, but we do need to get these ordinances and resolutions passed so we can start operating at the beginning of next year. So if at all possible, I'd encourage you all to try to come so we can get it done. And with that, I'll pass.
Okay, thank you. City Auditor, Mrs. Woman.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I just wanted to update you a little bit more on our budgets. Again, we're currently setting up meetings to discuss all the budgets with the department heads. And the intention is that we will have a balanced budget to be voted on by council either the very end of January or the first meeting in February. So that's the plan right now. And with that, I pass.
Okay, thank you. Wow, the year is closing quickly. We're going to be inundated with a whole bunch of stuff next week. If we have 16 pieces of legislation to cover tonight.
Oh, there'll be more. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
There'll be more.
Okay. We have nothing on the committee reports, and we have 16 ordinances resolutions that basically all we can do is read them by title first time. We cannot suspend the rules because we do not have 6 council members present. So if you will,
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Greenville, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. The supplemental ordinance allows for appropriations in the general fund, park fund, public transportation fund, and waterworks replacement fund in the sum as follows. Outside council assistance, law director, in the amount of $2,500. These funds are needed for consultant fees regarding combining the city and township fire departments into a COG. The township and city will divide the fees equally. County law services, elected auditor and treasurer, in the amount of $12,000. These funds are needed to cover the city's portion of health department annual operational expenses. Future park development park in the amount of $3,000. These funds are needed to cover the main park restroom restoration in 2022 and were provided by a donation from the Ketro Foundation. Transfer public transportation in the amount of $18,181. These funds are needed to transfer to the general fund since the transit department was funded in part by the CARES Act funds for 2021. Transfers out waterworks replacement fund in the amount of $70.16. These funds are needed to close out that fund. An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. This transfer ordinance allows for transfers in the general fund, water fund, and public transportation fund in the sum as follows. $1,800 from equipment maintenance police department to lease and rentals police department. This transfer is needed to cover Mark's lease through December 31st. $800 from office supplies fire department to uniform allowance fire department. This transfer is needed to purchase structural firefighting gear and uniforms for a beginning firefighter. $2,000 from office supplies fire department to new equipment fire department. This transfer is needed to purchase structural firefighting gear and uniforms for a beginning firefighter. $9,000 from travel and education fire department to new equipment fire department. This transfer is needed to purchase firefighting boots and a 5-gas monitor for L171. $865 from equipment maintenance water department to travel and education water department. This transfer is needed to cover training through December 31st, 2021. $400 from equipment maintenance water department to salary safety service director. This transfer is needed to cover the safety service director's salary through the end of 2021. $1,091 from new equipment public transportation to healthcare premiums public transportation. This transfer is needed to cover healthcare premium through December 31st, 2021.
Okay, next we have the third item, an ordinance for temporary appropriations for 2022.
An ordinance to make temporary appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Greenville, Ohio for 2022 until not later than March 31st, 2022, and the regular appropriations ordinance for the year 2022 is passed. After the regular annual appropriation ordinance is passed, this ordinance shall be null and void. This ordinance allows for temporary appropriations of the city of Greenville, Ohio for 2022 and not later than March 31st, 2022, and the regular appropriations ordinance for the year 2022 is passed.
And next we have an ordinance establishing salaries, wages for temporary seasonal employees and declaring an emergency.
An ordinance establishing salaries, wages for the various employees of the city of Greenville not covered by wage agreements and declaring an emergency. This ordinance establishes salaries, wages for the temporary and seasonal employees of the city of Greenville effective first full pay of 2022. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
Establishing salaries and wages for the designated employees and declaring an emergency.
An ordinance establishing wages and salaries for the various employees of the city of Greenville not covered by wage agreements and declaring an emergency. This ordinance establishes wages and salaries for the designated employees of the city of Greenville effective first full pay of 2022. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
And next we have a ordinance ratifying collective bargaining agreement between the city and Greenville maintenance employees declaring an emergency.
An ordinance ratifying the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville, Ohio and the Greenville Maintenance Employees Association, Local 3AA4, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Ohio Council 8, AFL-CIO, on behalf of the city's maintenance workers and declaring an emergency. This ordinance ratifies the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville and Greenville Maintenance Employees Association on behalf of the city's maintenance workers. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
Okay. Next, we have an ordinance ratifying collective bargaining between the city of Greenville and the firefighters and ECO and declaring an emergency.
An ordinance ratifying the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville, Ohio and the Greenville Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 1101 Emergency Communication Operators on behalf of the city's firefighters and declaring an emergency. This ordinance ratifies the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville and Greenville Professional Firefighters Association Emergency Communication Operators on behalf of the city's firefighters. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
And an ordinance ratifying the collective bargaining agreement with the Greenville Firefighters Association.
An ordinance ratifying the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville, Ohio and the Greenville Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 1101 on behalf of the city's firefighters and declaring an emergency. This ordinance ratifies the collective bargaining agreement negotiated between the city of Greenville and the Greenville Professional Firefighters Association on behalf of the city's firefighters. This ordinance has emergency clause.
Okay, next we have a resolution adopting Lake County Sewer Company bid for sanitary sewer grouting maintenance.
A resolution accepting the Lake County Sewer Co. Inc. bid for sanitary sewer grouting maintenance. This resolution accepts the Lake County Sewer Company Incorporated bid for sanitary sewer grouting maintenance.
And resolution accepting the Instituform Technologies LLC bid for sanitary and storm sewer lining.
A resolution accepting the Instituform Technologies LLC bid for the sanitary and storm sewer lining. This resolution accepts the Instituform Technologies LLC bid for the sanitary and storm sewer lining project.
Next, we have a resolution waiving service charges for the Greenville CIC.
A resolution waiving service charges for land owned by the Greenville Community Improvement Corporation. This resolution waives the service charges for land owned by the Greenville Community Improvement Corporation.
Resolution authorizing disposition of no longer needed equipment.
A resolution authorizing the disposition of no longer needed fire equipment. This resolution authorizes the disposition of no longer needed fire equipment to the Village of Versailles.
And next we have an ordinance amending ordinance 17-93 to update projects in the Waterworks Surplus Fund.
An ordinance to amend ordinance 1793 in order to update projects in the Waterworks Surplus Fund. This ordinance amends ordinance 1793 to accumulate $11,439,846 over a 10-year period into the Waterworks Surplus Fund.
And next, ordinance amending ordinance 1795 to establish a wastewater replacement and improvement fund.
An ordinance to amend ordinance 1795 in order to establish a wastewater replacement and improvement fund. This ordinance amends ordinance 1795 in order to reestablish the North Ohio OPWC sanitary upgrades in the amount of $400,000, sanitary sewer lining project in the amount of $250,000, grouting and manhole rehabilitation project in the amount of $500,000, ultraviolet light project in the amount of $1 million, solids handling facility in the amount of $8 million, ditch and aerator rehab in the amount of $3 million, and admin building in the amount of $1,500,000 in the wastewater replacement and improvement fund.
And next we have item 15, a resolution regarding the well replacement.
A resolution authorizing entering a contract with Boone Water Systems Incorporated for the replacement of well 7 parts. This resolution authorizes the safety service director to enter into contract with Boone Water Systems Incorporated for the replacement of parts for well 7.
And finally, the rezoning of 142, 146 West Water.
An ordinance rezoning property at 142, 146 West Water Street from urban residential to downtown enterprise. This ordinance rezones the property at 142/146 West Water Street from urban residential to downtown enterprise.
Wow. Did well.
You drink water?
She said, well, if she had to read those 3 times, that would be something. Okay, that's going to really backlog things next week, but in 2 weeks, but we will go with that. Next, under new business, we have Ohio Division of Liquor Control application number so-and-so Speedway LLC doing business as Speedway 9654 at 1350 Schweitzer Street, Greenville.
To City of Greenville Council, I have reviewed the application submitted by Speedway LLC, 1350 Schweitzer Street, Greenville, Ohio, for permit number 841-899-40340. There are no reasons to object for their continued sales of alcohol. Sincerely, Chief Roberts.
And we have also, I'll have this one, the Ohio Division of Liquor Control application. Speedway doing business on Wagner Avenue, Greenville.
To Greenville Council, I have reviewed the application submitted by Speedway LLC, 201 Wagner Avenue, Greenville, Ohio, for permit number 841-899-40335. There are no reasons to object for their continued sales of alcohol. Sincerely, Chief Roberts.
Mr. Council President, I move to not request a hearing for these two.
Okay, motion by Mr. Baumgartner to not request a hearing for the applications on these liquor permits. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Godwin.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Baumgartner.
Yes.
Ely.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing under old business and council representatives of outside committees, the Community Improvement Corporation, CIC, that has been Mr. Godwin and who's the other one?
Baumgartner.
Mr. Baumgartner? Yeah. Don't think you've attended any lately.
No, I missed this last meeting, so I was
Yeah.
not there, but Mike Bowers, I don't know if you have anything for us.
Which piece?
CIC.
Come on, you know the rule. You know the drill. Sorry.
Mike Bowers, 537 South Broadway, AKA Mayor Bowser for Doug Schmidt if he's not here still. But no, just things that we're working on. From the city's perspective, I continue to meet with the mayor and Ryan once a month to go over the updated things of what we're working on. The piece that is good, which is additional funds, hopefully in the future for the city of Greenville, is we're working with MVRPC, Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, and the Dayton Development Coalition to establish a community economic development study. That piece will be put in play, opens up this neck of the woods to additional federal funding through the EDA and specifically for infrastructure. So the different things that we're looking at from water, wastewater, internet, and those pieces will fall into some of those things. So some good opportunities to move forward along those lines. So that's the biggest piece that we're working on that involves the city. I mean, numerous other things with different business things that I'm sure Ryan and Steve have kept you up to date on. So, but just wanted a bit of a point of clarification on the point that we were looking at. So my office was approached by a developer to look at the Montrose Group. The cost was $25,000 for an application fee, and in that was that the different studies that would be done as part of it's a pretty elaborate process that Montrose Group goes through to present that information to ODOD as they would do this. It's called the Rural Industrial Park Loan Program, or RIPPLE. So that was the part that would have come out of that. My organization was approached with that. They were asked to check with the Greenville CIC to see if they would be a willing participant for half of that cost. And then, as Steve mentioned, that group asked if the city would participate in that. So completely understand, how that works on the public dollars going to private pieces. But that was simply the ask of a developer to give us a 36,000 square foot building, because we literally have no inventory in the city of Greenville and the county of Dark for those, I'm sorry.
That, but that building would be on private property. It wouldn't be on Greenville.
Completely understand, yes.
CIC land.
Correct.
Okay,
So
that's another
just go back
issue.
to, correct.
Yeah.
So it would just go back to the Greenville CIC for their participation in the project. So, but a member of the CIC asked city council, so that's how it came to you guys through Steve. Now to go back to them, then back to me. back- So like juggling bowling balls, a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So, but that's all I've got unless you have any other questions of me.
Good.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful evening
Merry Christmas.
and a happy new year.
Before we call down the council, I've been apprised that we have a couple of students here doing reports. Do you have any questions or would you like to make a statement?
Thanks for being here.
Kind of caught you off guard. I understand that. Being a former educator, I like to give students a hard time anyway. But thank you for coming. It's the way you learn. It gets a little boring sometimes, as you can tell. It is even more so if we have to do a reading 3 times in a row. But thank you for being here because that's the way you learn, and that's good. And you're all going to come back anytime, and when you turn 18, there are petitions at the Board of Elections. Get your feet wet. That would be a good thing to do. Okay, call down the council, please.
Communication.
Oh, communications. I'm sorry. One thing that we really needed to do.
We received the CIC minutes from September 22nd, and then we have 2 letters from planning and zoning. Honorable members of council, at the November 16, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, applicant Oakley Point LP's Frank Fugate request was heard for a zoning amendment for 7.874 acres lot located on Adrian Avenue. Parcel number F27221224030110514. Members voted to send an unfavorable recommendation to city council for the request to rezone the parcel from GB general business to PUDR planned unit developmental residential. And following with the zoning regulations, Article 5, Amendment Section 5.05, the Planning and Zoning Commission is hereby forwarding the recommendation to rezone the request to City Council. City Council per zoning text Section 5.06 must now take action. The application as submitted by Oakley Point LP on behalf of the property owner with permission is attached. Minutes from the November 16, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting are also attached. Sincerely, Mayor Wellman.
Okay, that's the one that we will set the public hearing for that. It has to be 30 days. Once again, the first meeting in January is January the 4th. So we'll have to go to January the 18th. Excuse me. Yeah. First, yeah, January 18th. Would be the hearing on that. Okay.
Honorable members of council, at the November 16, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, applicant National Church Residences, Amy Rosenthal, request was heard for a zoning amendment for 12.525 acres lot located on Lease Avenue, parcel ID F27221223020114900. Members voted to send an unfavorable recommendation to City Council for the request to rezone the parcel from SR3 Suburban Residential 3 to PUDR Planned Unit Developmental Residential. And following with the zoning regulations, Article 5, Amendment Section 5.05, the Planning and Zoning Commission is hereby forwarding the recommendation to rezone the request to City Council. City Council per zoning text Section 5.06 must now take action. The application as submitted by National Church Residences on behalf of the property owner with permission is attached. Minutes from the November 16, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting are also attached. Sincerely, Mayor Wellman.
So again, that hearing will be set for that same date.
There's 2.
That'll be 2.
Okay. And for basically the same thing. Okay.
Okay, anything further on communications from anyone? All right. Call down the council, please.
Godwin,
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and, expressing your concerns and comments. And, hope everybody has a good Christmas. and a Happy New Year. I'll pass.
Rogers,
I'm gonna pass tonight.
Whitaker,
Yeah, first of all, we thank everyone who came to speak and also to welcome the two students and learn about city council, and hopefully they'll, the young lady in the back nodding her head, I want you to run for council sometime. Okay? All right. I want to thank everyone in the city of Greenville. I'm going to be able to serve a second term. We got sworn in tonight, and I appreciate that opportunity to continue representing my neighbors and family and friends and coworkers and fellow churchgoers and everybody that lives here in Greenville and put me here. So I'm trying to do my best and see God's wisdom in doing it. And with that, I pass.
Bob Gardner,
Yeah, just, kind of piggyback off what Ryan said, the downtown Greenville is just beautiful. I mean, I was driving down the other night and was looking at the tree and I looked in the rearview mirror and it's like, it's really a beautiful scenery. I haven't had any complaints. So Ryan, make sure you kudos to the street department because they've just, and it's just growing and growing. I think it's awesome. My favorite time of the year, I think we have, 5 or 6 Christmas trees at our house. So I'm big on the Christmas. But yeah, so kudos to the street department and we just got to keep growing it. I know Ryan and I ran into Rob the other day, one of the street department workers, and we're just scratching the surface what Rob wants to do. But and with that, I pass.
Ely,
Yes, I want to thank everybody for attending, and I also want to thank our city employees. They do such a good job for all of us, and I appreciate all their efforts. I wish we could give them some kind of special award because downtown is gorgeous. And especially all the things that they do without sometimes even being asked. So I appreciate our city employees and I wish them all a Merry Christmas. And council members too. And with that, I pass.
Thanks.
President Burkett,
Yes. Look here real quick. Yeah. How big is community? Community is an all-encompassing word, I think. We had the horse parade and it was very tremendously well attended by citizens from all over. And it was really nice and well done. We were able to have it without rain, without sleet, without snow. Snow wouldn't have been bad, but still, it was a nice festive occasion. But my idea of community is much more than just the Greenville city limits when we start considering where we live and how we react with one another. And I'm building up to give a big congrats to the Versailles High School football team for becoming state champions. I think that's marvelous. And not too far up the road was very local. And Coldwater was a state runner-up. I said you could have walked off with half in Mercer County that Saturday morning and afternoon because they were all up north. But I think that's wonderful. And I know Greenville has a lot of teams that are doing well, but it's a community thing. It isn't something just. I happened to work with the county schools in my tenure in education for a while, and all of them do a lot to support the community. And, way back, schools were the central figure of a lot of small towns because that's where all the action took place. So it's important that we maintain that, and it's important that we support them and give them kudos when it's deserved. I too think that the city looks absolutely marvelous. Not only the downtown, but all throughout. You drive around the city and you see people have gone the extra mile in some of their personal home decorations. And they're ready to get out and show their support for, again, the community. It is a community thing. So I appreciate that, and it means a lot to live in a community like this. And I wish everyone a really a festive and good time the rest of the December. We're going to be hit with Christmas parties, and be careful and don't do anything crazy, and have a good time and enjoy the season. With that, I will pass and entertain a motion. So move. Motion by Mr. Rogers to adjourn. Call the roll, please.
Godwin,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Whitaker.
Yes.
Baumgartner.
Yes.
Ely.
Yes.